Okay, so I didn't hit record, so just let me kind of go over what I just said. This week, we're going to be looking at some test-taking strategies that you guys can use at the college or anywhere you guys would take a test, so at any post-secondary institution. So in this section, we'll talk about a few things, and I did mention this is a little bit of a longer class than normal. We have about 30 or 35 slides to go through, but they're pretty quick, and it's a pretty straightforward topic that I hope will help you guys for your upcoming midterms, future tests, and final exams. So we're going to look at a suggested 5-day test preparation plan. We're going to look at how you approach multiple choice, true and false matching, and completion. There's a strategy for taking tests called the quote strategy, and then we'll finish off today with test anxiety. And I shouldn't have to say this, it's the already February 7th, but just remember, today is the lecture, and then the rest of the week you can spend working on your quiz. There's a quiz that you have to do. This week, there's Sports Day, which an announcement just came out. The National Sports Day is, I think, Tuesday, which means there's no class then. So you'll have to do the quiz kind of on your own time this week. Anyways, let's get started with the 5-day test preparation plan. And I will talk about the quiz at the end of this class. So this is just a suggestion. This is just kind of, through studies and through some research, a way that you can prepare for a test or a midterm or a final exam 5 days before it happens. Again, this is just a suggestion. It's a good idea, but everybody has their own way to study for tests. So the idea is 5 days before the test on the first day, it's a really good idea to read your textbook, if you have a textbook, read your class notes, and maybe you have to watch some videos. With online learning, there's probably been a lot more videos shared in your class. It's really important to look at handouts from your class. I know if you guys take, again, SD is a little different, but if you are in, say, math or chemistry or communications, your instructors might, during your notes, give you some hints or tell you some things to study. So you should look at your handouts from your class and highlight info, highlight some of the concepts in your notes and handouts that you would think are important. So like definitions, practice problems in math, things like that. So day one, kind of just overview your textbook and your notes and highlight any important information. Again, a good example of important information would be definitions. Now, again, totally a suggestion, but day two, there is a technique that a lot of students can use. I know I've done it in the past. It's a mnemonic technique to practice what you need to know. A mnemonic technique is using, it's almost like using an acronym to memorize something. So it might be hard, excuse me, it might be hard to see on the slides here, but for example, if you were in, say, physics, so like astronomy, or studying the solar system, and you had to memorize the planets of the solar system. I know from experience, this type of studying device, excuse me, works very well for biology. I remember when I was a student taking biology, there was I had to remember the kingdoms and classifications, and I would use a mnemonic technique. So how does it work? Well, the solar system from the sun outwards has a number of planets. We have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. If you had to remember them in order from the sun, it might be an idea to come up with a phrase that would help you remember this. And this is an old phrase, and I have maybe interesting fact for you, which some of you may know. The phrase has changed because poor Pluto, this is probably, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. I can't remember now. But when I was younger, Pluto was considered a planet, but now it's so small. I think they call it a dwarf planet. So Pickles is not there anymore, but the mnemonic is, my very educated mother just served us 9 pickles. And I know that sounds silly, but it's kind of fun, because you guys can come up with your own mnemonic technique. You can come up with your own phrase. It could be, of course, in Arabic if it translates, or English, to kind of memorize this. So my Mercury, very Venus, educated Earth, mother Mars. You kind of get the idea here. So if you had to remember some sort of order, like you can almost think in mathematics, the order of operations. So BEDMAS or PEMDAS, if you're studying in the UK, you could create a mnemonic to help you memorize that. This is, of course, totally a suggestion. If you guys can remember, I think it was back in section 1, or sorry, unit 1 or unit 2, we did learning styles. Some of you might not be auditory or visual. You might be tactile, so you might want to create some cards that you can lay down in order and kind of work with this hands-on. So, it's totally up to the student. Day 3 suggestion, you can rewrite your information in brief form. This goes very well for visual style learners. So I know this is kind of how I used to have to study. I would rewrite definitions, practice math problems, and rewrite them over and over and over. And that would really help me kind of memorize these things. You can, again, use your mnemonic strategies to help you memorize these things. And I know I've said this like 5 times, but this is a suggestion. Every single one of you will likely study much differently than each other. So you kind of do what feels good for you. This is something you should all do, no matter who or what learning style you have. Really important to think of the questions your teacher might ask you. Now, I know for me personally, when I'm teaching like math or chemistry, during the classes, I tend to give them hints. So I might say, guys, this is definitely something you would see on the midterm. This is definitely something you need to know for your lab. And I would tell the students that. But that, your instructor is not going to do that for every single question. I mean, it's impossible. So when you're reading your notes, think of questions your teacher might ask you. It could be definitions or, things. Actually, one of the really good things to look at, and I'm going to kind of deviate from my notes here and talk more specifically about the college. Let me open up a new tab, and I'll show you what I mean. One of the best ways for you guys I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret here this morning, okay? So there's a little secret to all this. In your courses, your instructors are supposed to share what's called the course outline. So you can, again, SD is a very different course from the other courses. But if you're in engineering or medical science or IT or business, your instructors need to share with you a document called the course outline. If they don't share it with you, they have to, you can request it. You can send them an email and say, hey, I would like to see the course outline. And again, this is like a little insider secret for you. The course outline is a document from the College of the North Atlantic. Okay, you can see it here, that explains the learning objectives for the course that you're in. So when I'm saying on day, I think it was day 4 or day 3? Hold on now. What day was it? Day 4. Think of questions your teacher might ask you. This is a really good place to find the questions. For example, one of the outcomes in goal setting is to define priority. What's another? This is a very different course from other courses, so this is maybe not the best example. But, you know, if you were writing a final in this course, which you're not, there is no final exam, but that might be a question a teacher would ask you. Okay, so your course outline is kind of like an inside guide to what you might need to know for the course. Okay, another one. If you had a final exam, this would be a good one. Explain the components of effective communication. So you would need to know active listening, self-confidence, clear articulation. These are some things that can help you when you're studying. So I like to think of this document, the course outline, as a study guide. And your teacher can't ask you every question. I mean, the exam would be a million pages, but this is a really good way to kind of get some insight into your teacher's brain. And you can kind of figure out, oh, they might ask me to define this or to explain this. So again, no matter what your study style is, thinking of questions your teacher might ask you and then practicing, writing the question, writing the answer, this is one of the most important things you can do in studying for a test. It's not really mentioned here either. This is a very kind of open concept, but if any of you are in like engineering or mathematics or IT, another good thing to do is to practice any worksheets your instructor gives you. So on day like 4 or day 3, it would be a great idea to practice worksheets from your medical science instructor. Again, worksheets usually contain questions that you would see on a test. Okay, so the most stressful day of all, day 5, it's your test day. One thing I can really attest to, and my teachers always told me this when I was a student, is, first things first on test day, make sure you get a good night's sleep and you eat something healthy for breakfast. I say healthy, but, eat something so you're not hungry while taking the test. And then review your written notes from day 3, review any questions and answers from day 4. Again, it's not really mentioned here, but don't forget, if your teacher has any worksheets or practice, and I know that's very common in mathematics type courses, I would definitely practice or review some of those. And just before the test, take a breath, relax, and go over any questions you think you might, have some difficulties with, anything you have trouble remembering. But, one of the most important things on day 5 is to kind of relax, get a good night's sleep. It's kind of up to you. It's a very personal thing. So, this slide just kind of represents that for you. What is your most effective technique? I know for me, a technique I used to use is I would try to teach a topic to somebody else. So like, if I had a math problem that I really wanted to practice, I would try to show my dad or my brother how I would do it. Teaching by learning, learning by teaching is a good strategy. Some of you might watch YouTube videos from like Khan Academy. Some of you might just want to listen to the lecture over. I mean, it's completely up to you. But those are just some strategies that have worked for students in the past. Okay, so we're going to very quickly go over some different types of tests and talk about strategies for things like multiple choice, true and false. One thing, I was talking to a friend last night about this. Another coworker, she teaches the other sections, and we were talking about our experience with multiple choice tests. And I hope you know what I mean by multiple choice. This is like when you get a question and you pick A, B, C, or D. So multiple choice, or some people call it selected response. One of the most common types of questions you'll see at the college here, especially like the first part of your final exam. It's typically multiple choice. One thing, and we were laughing at this, well, not in a mean way, but laughing because we've done it ourselves, is, you always get students who leave multiple choice or true and false questions blank. So even before I get started with this, never ever leave a multiple choice or a true or false question blank. If you truly do not have any idea about the answer, you should guess. And I know that's really weird to hear coming from an instructor, but don't leave them blank. Guess. With a multiple choice, you have a 25% chance to get them right. So, 1 in 4. With a true and false, you have 1 in 2. So you have a 50% chance of getting it right. Again, I know it's a weird strategy, but just don't leave these questions blank. The other thing you should do is kind of look at the question as a whole and weed out, meaning kind of pick out absolute words. I'll explain what those mean in a second, and recognize umbrella questions. And I'll explain what those mean in a second. So we'll start with absolute words. Absolutes are kind of like finite examples. The claim for an absolute word is that there are absolutely, positively no exceptions. Okay, and sometimes when you see an absolute word in a multiple choice, it can make the sentence false. So absolute words mean there is literally no exceptions. So like none, never, all, always, every day, only, must. These are words that mean, there is literally no exception. And sometimes they can be a hint that the question isn't true, or sorry, that the answer isn't true. So I have an example here. The result of the study showed all of the people scored the same. So what that's saying is every single person, everybody scored the same on the study. That's pretty unlikely, right? If I gave a study or a test, it would be very unlikely that every single person scored the exact same number. So that's a bit unlikely. Question B, or answer B, or response B. No two people scored the same. So again, it's kind of saying the same thing. Well, it's giving an absolute. Not one person in that study got the same mark as anybody else. Again, that's pretty unlikely. Again, if I gave a test, there'll probably be a few 90s. There'll probably be a few 80s. It's unlikely. Test scores are never the same, right? These three things, they're not realistic. All people got the same mark. No people got the same mark. Test scores are never the same. It's very unlikely. But D, it's not absolute. It's a little bit more open-ended. Similar test scores may be found. That is much more likely to be the answer. Again, if I gave a test, I would probably see a lot of results in the 70s or 80s. They are similar test scores. So D would be my answer. This doesn't always work. These are totally just suggestions. Okay, so don't take everything here, like every multiple choice you'll ever see is the exact same. This is just a strategy. Now, this one's a little weird. What is an umbrella question? An umbrella question is when the easiest way to describe an umbrella question is that all of the answers are plausible. What that word means is all of the answers are realistic. There's no absolutes. They're all plausible. Again, that word means they all could be answers, but there's only one true, or there's one best answer. This is the hardest type by far of a multiple choice question. These are very challenging. These are when all are plausible and you choose the best. Okay, now this example, these are kind of notes that everybody at the college uses. This is not the best example of an umbrella question, but if you knew nothing about Edgar Allan Poe, if you've never heard of Edgar Allan Poe, all of these could be plausible, right? The Duke of Edinburgh, the father of the short story, Old Ironsides, the father of new criticism. If you knew nothing about Edgar Allan Poe, these could all be possible answers, but you need to choose the correct one, the best one. The answer, if you're wondering, is B, but this is not necessarily the best answer. But again, an umbrella question is that all of them could be true, but you have to choose the correct one. They're the hardest types of multiple choices to answer. All right, true and false. I like true and false. Again, don't leave a true and false blank ever, because you have a 50% chance of guessing this correct. So true and false tests obviously choose true unless you know the statement is false. For a statement to be true, every single thing about that statement has to be true. There can be no exceptions. So if I asked you a true and false question, let's see if there's an example here. Oh, yeah, there's an example. I'll get to the example in a second. Let's go through some of this. But what I'm trying to say for this outline or this comment here is, if there's any doubt in your mind, or there's any exception or any part of that question that might not be true, it is false. So again, for a statement to be true, everything must be true. Any exceptions or any mistakes in that statement, you then say false. I don't ask too many true and false questions. They don't really fit in math, or well, the math that I teach anyways, but they're pretty useful test questions. Just be careful when you're reading true and false questions. If a statement has a negative term like not, do not, just be careful. This basically means read the question carefully. A negative statement, so if they say not in the question, it can completely change the meaning. So this is kind of where your English comprehension skills come in handy. I would hope that a teacher would never do this to you. This would be a bad question. But if a statement had two negatives, cross them both out. You can think of like in math class when you multiply two negatives and you get a positive. So like, look at this example here. It is never not a good idea to serve the people. Ugh, that's a really bad question. And I hope your instructors wouldn't do that to you. But if you did see two negatives in a row, just cancel them. They cancel out. So in English, not the most easy language, it is never not a good idea to serve the people. Well, that's the same thing as saying it is a good idea to serve the people. This is, as a student, this is a bad question. The instructor should not have written the question like this. So I truly hope you don't see questions like this. That's just bad, bad, bad. Shame. So true and false tests, just a couple of hints. This is, again, not always true, but they can help you. An absolute statement in a true and false question can often be false. So like the absolute statement, cats are never hairless. Well, that's saying that there is no cat on this planet that is hairless. And then, well, there's breeds of cats that are hairless. So that's obviously false. Qualified statements, So like statements that might include some, most, or sometimes, they can often be true. So some cats are hairless, right? Some people have brown hair. You know, if I said all people or humans never have blonde hair, that's not true. But if I said some people have blonde hair, that's a true statement. So just some strategies there for true and false. So this is a good one. True and false. Palm trees are never found in cold climates. When I see the word never, never is an absolute, meaning there are no exceptions. You will never see a palm tree in a country with a cold climate. That's a pretty bold statement. So I would really, really have to think about my course notes, what I learned, to see if this is true. Well, it ends up being false because palm trees are typically found in hot climates, but there are exceptions, like in the southwest of England, where it can get fairly cold. So, you know, just some strategies there. What do you guys see if you guys are awake? What questions do you like better? You can let me know in the chat. Do you prefer multiple choice, or do you prefer true and false, or neither? Do you hate them both? Let me know in the chat. Do you like multiple choice, true and false, or nothing? You hate them both. All right, I got someone say true and false, someone say multiple choice. Perfect. I don't know how I feel. True and false, multiple choice, true and false. I am getting some good answers here. I think, here's my view, my personal view. I think true and false questions can be harder. And I like multiple choice because so Hashem kind of said what I think. Sometimes true and false questions can be worded very tricky, very challenging. What I like about multiple choice, and I'm not saying anybody's wrong, like everybody has a preference. So this is just my preference. What I like about multiple choice is that the answer is there. And I find when I'm reading a question and I see the answer, sometimes my brain is like, oh yeah, of course, the answer is 16, or the answer is, golden retriever. Yeah, I'm a multiple choice fan, but that's just me. And it depends on the question too. Like some true and false questions are very easy. So true or false, like let's go back up to the planets. True or false, Earth is the third planet from the sun. That's not very tricky, right? You would have to know that, but the question isn't misleading. But then, as Hashim said, some questions can be very misleading, like this horrible one here, which I would never do to you. It is never not a good idea to serve the people. That's a tough question because it's confusing. Anyways, cool. Okay. Now, this one I've always loved, matching. And I didn't see this too much growing up, but I loved matching questions. It was kind of like solving a little puzzle. If you don't know what I mean about matching, this is an example of matching here. Now, obviously, this is a pretty easy matching question, but it says, match the following fruits and their colors. I would love to get this on a test when I was in university. So if you don't know what matching is, what you would do, and I'll go back up to the previous slide in a minute, but you would match the term on the left with the term on the right. So bananas are yellow, carrots are orange, blueberries are blue or purple, eggplants are purple, zucchinis green, lettuce green. I don't know if blueberries are blue. They're kind of blue, but they're some of them can be purple as well. Anyways, I guess because they are called blueberries, you should probably say blue. Anyways, so what are some strategies for something like this? Well, read all the items in both columns before you do any matches. You might think that a term matches, but you might realize once you read all of the terms that there's something that fits better. Like, again, this example here, I might say, oh, blueberries, they're purple. I see the word purple. I see blueberries. They look purple to me. But if you read the whole thing, you might find out that, oh, blue is probably a better answer. So even though something fits, you might find a better suggestion or a better answer. Always start by making the matches that you're sure of. This can help you eliminate some. Some matching questions will not let you use a term twice. So if you can eliminate terms, you can kind of narrow down the rest of the answers. Cross out items as you make matches and make your best guess for remaining items. The only thing else I'll mention is kind of like what I was saying. Some matching questions, it will say in the instructions, you can only match a term once. So that means if I matched lettuce with green, I cannot pick green for anything else. Some questions will say a term can be matched more than once. So then you can't cross out any terms. So it's really, really important that you read the instructions for your all of your questions. All right, I think this is the last test taking skill. Then we get into test anxiety. Sorry, I'm just seeing what's left. Okay, cool. We're almost done actually. Test anxiety won't take us too long. So, oh, there's two types left, sorry. So completion. Completion is another word for fill in the blank. I find fill in the blank can be amazing or horrible. If you know, if you know your terms, it can be easy. You can just kind of, think of the terms in the course. We've studied pollution, we've studied acid rain, we've studied climate change. So which fits best into here? Sorry, my pen isn't working. But if you do not know the terms, you will never get this question. So completion or fill in the blank can be sometimes the easiest question on the test, sometimes the hardest question on the test. There's a question in the chat I'll get to in 1 minute. Just let me finish this. So completion. Read the item, read the question, and think about what's missing. And of course, write the answer that fills in that blank. Depending on your instructor, I know I go a little easy on my students, but put in the answer that fits grammatically. So use the proper tense, use the proper terminology, past tense or present tense, for example. And after you write the answer, read it to make sure that it makes sense. I know personally, I don't worry too much about grammar because most of my courses are introductory courses anyways, but some of your instructors might be picky about spelling and grammar. So just be careful. Okay, so the question I had in the chat, which is a good question from Sarah. We don't have an assignment for this week. You don't have an assignment in Dropbox, but you do have a quiz. Like your study skills quiz, you have a test taking quiz. So no assignment, but a quiz. Someone's microphone is on. Was there another question? I think Mohammed, your microphone is on. If you have a question, let me know. Okay. So supplies will last far into the blank due to advances in exploration and production. The best thing I could think here is into the future. So supplies will last far into the future due to advances in exploration and production. So try and pick the best term. Whoa, sorry about that. Due to advances in exploration and production. Cool. Sarah, just like every week, your assignments and quizzes are always due Thursday at midnight. I got another question that I don't understand. It's a private message, so you guys can't see it. So I'll kind of comment there. Okay. Feel free to ask me any questions in the chat. I'll get to them as I can. All right. So some of you guys will eventually, maybe you've done this already, you might be writing a communications course, or even in medical science or business, you might have to write an essay type question. An essay type would be, a multi-paragraph response. You'll definitely see this in communications. So there's a strategy for writing essay tests called the quote strategy. So first things first, read the question. Look for the direction in the question. It might say discuss. It might say describe. It might say explain. And those words are similar, but they mean different things. A discussion is like a casual, informal kind of look into the topic. Describing is more technical. If I asked you guys to describe the process of distillation, again, that's an engineering example. Describe the process of taking out a loan. You would give me, very clear step-by-step descriptions of that process. Explaining is the same thing. If somebody said, explain the process of photosynthesis, just imagine you're teaching that to somebody else. So discussing is kind of like an informal look at a topic. Describing is like a technical, step-by-step explanation. Well, I shouldn't say explanation, but step-by-step procedure. You will describe something. And explaining is more of, imagine like you're teaching the topic to somebody. So explain photosynthesis. Explain what a firewall would do for computer security, and you would imagine like you're telling your mother or your brother or sister what that not process, but what that item is. Okay, so you underline. I got a question in the chat. I'll get back to in a second. Underline. Underline words or highlight words that help you focus on the idea. So like, again, if I said, explain the process of photosynthesis, underline the word photosynthesis. I don't want you to talk about respiration, or I don't want you to talk about banking or, distillation in chemistry. I want information on photosynthesis. Oh, organize. So organize your topic, make like an outline, think about what you're going to talk about. Think about your opening statement, the main body of your message, and your conclusion. So organize your topic. Time, very important. Depending on the marks given. So if you had an essay question that was worth 5%, don't spend much time. If you had an essay question that was worth 50%, and you had a 3-hour exam and the essay question was worth 50%, you might want to take an hour or more to work on that essay. If you were doing a 3-hour exam and the essay question was 5%, 10 minutes, go quick. And then finally, evaluate. So look at the contents and organization of what you wrote. Read it over again. Make sure grammatically it's correct. Make sure it's organized logically. Maybe this is so true for every test question. If you have time, review, check your math, check your essay for grammar. If you have time, review all of your questions. Some of your questions might just be one paragraph. So give an introductory sentence that contains your main point, and then follow with a few sentences that support your point. End your answer with a very quick conclusion. This is like a minimal or a shrunken essay. So in an essay, you might have an introductory paragraph, supporting paragraphs, and a conclusion paragraph. In a 1-paragraph answer, if a teacher said, in 4 to 5 sentences, explain photosynthesis, give an introductory sentence, say something about photosynthesis, give statements that support your point, and then end it with a conclusion statement. If the answer is multiple paragraphs, do the exact same thing, but expand it. So introductory paragraph, additional supporting paragraphs, and then a paragraph for conclusion. All right, we're almost done. This won't take me too long to get through test anxiety, and then we're finished for today. This is a longer class than normal. In the chat, I have a private message, but I'll read it out loud. It says, when will you tell? You will tell us when we should study for the quiz. Yeah, you should study now. Your quiz is Thursday. Or, well, sorry, your quiz is due Thursday. So you can do the quiz anytime this week before Thursday. So, you can start studying right after this class if you want. Your quiz is very short, very easy. It's just like the quiz you guys did a few weeks ago. And as long as you get it done before Thursday at 11:30 p.m., that's fine. Okay. Test taking skills, test anxiety. What is it? And again, this won't take me too long. I'll go a little quick through this, and I think, yeah, that's it. All right, sorry, one question. A question in the chat, what should you study? You should study this PowerPoint, test taking skills. The quiz is on test taking skills, so yeah, you should study this. Kind of a weird thing to have a test on test taking skills, but anyways, there it is. So test taking skills, test anxiety, what is it? Hold on one second. Okay, sorry, I had to clear my throat. Test anxiety, what is it? It's a type of performance anxiety. It can be what's called a situational phobia. So it's a fear of a certain situation. Some of you, I've been there myself, might feel anxious, nervous, uncomfortable taking a test. There doesn't seem to be logical reasons. It can be based on a childhood or previous experience. Maybe you had a bad experience writing a test, and it kind of can provoke the flight or fight response. You feel anxious, you feel nervous, you want to leave, or you might get upset or angry. I would never shame a student ever. I know how stressful writing a test can be. But I've seen students cry. I've seen students just get up and leave the test room, and nothing wrong with the test. It's just anxiety. You feel overwhelmed. So some symptoms of test anxiety. And again, I've been very anxious for tests. I might not feel prepared. The test might be high stakes, meaning like if I fail this test, I fail the course. And I felt some of these symptoms. So nausea, sweating, diarrhea, rapid heartbeat is a very common one. Your chest is racing. You can't relax. Your feet are tapping, your hands are tapping. Mentally, you could freeze up, which just means you cannot think straight. The words aren't making sense. You're going blank is another way to kind of think about that. Like you're reading a question and nothing comes to mind over and over. Jittery and rapid heartbeat related, butterflies, rapid heartbeat, all the same. All these symptoms are, when you're sitting in an exam and you feel this, can be test anxiety. Some of these could be coronavirus. I shouldn't joke about that. Some of these could be a flu or a cold, right? If you're sweating or nauseous, it could just be you're sick. But, I think for me, the idea of not being able to relax, mentally freezing, weird feeling in your stomach is typically for me test anxiety. Even sweating, I guess sometimes you get nervous, you start sweating. So I mentioned earlier, test anxiety can be this fight or flight response. A physical and mental reaction to a test can increase adrenaline. So adrenaline in your body an increase in adrenaline can give you this really weird feeling. You can get aggressive, or you just might want to run away and leave. And some of the symptoms of that are, of course, that rapid heartbeat, trembling or shaking, sometimes even dilated pupils. So fight or flight, what happens is your brain takes charge and tries to get you out of a dangerous situation. This can happen like if you were in a car accident or a life-threatening situation. You're getting mugged or robbed on the street, or you get into a serious accident. Sometimes you kind of, the term is almost like blank out. Your brain takes control and just tries to get you out of there. And this can happen in a minimal amount on a test. I'm not comparing writing a test to crashing your car, but your brain takes over and it's trying to just get you out of the situation, trying to fix the problem. So instead of thinking logically about your test, your brain just goes, nope, see you later. I want you to leave, get out of here, get up, go. It can happen. I mean, it's definitely happened to me. Some of these things can give you negative thoughts, or you just give up and leave. And I've seen all of this and I've felt all of this. I've seen students just get up and walk out of tests with like nothing written down. And it's not that they didn't know it, it's they panicked and they just, the situation was too much. They had to leave. It happens. So we'll talk about some strategies before we finish today. But you'll notice sometimes you give up and leave, you walk away. And this can happen even when you're studying. You could be studying for something, or even like playing a video game, and you could just be getting so stressed. You can't beat the level, you can't solve the puzzle. So you throw the controller, you get up and leave. And then 5-10 minutes later, you're out of the room, you're having a coffee, and then you're thinking, oh my gosh, I could have done this, I could have done that. That's a physical response of something like anxiety or panic, where your brain goes blank, but the information was there. So it can be very stressful. Writing tests is not fun. So the key is for test anxiety to relax, and I know that's like the worst thing someone can tell you when you're stressed out, hey, relax. That doesn't work. You have to control your own emotions and responses to situations like tests. So I'm going to give you some strategies that might help you relax. Take a breath when you're writing a test. Very important. Negative thoughts, intrusive negative thoughts. I think we've all probably experienced this in the last year. With Corona, we've been spending a lot of time alone or isolated with small groups of people. We're not going to movies like we used to. We're not going to restaurants like we used to, especially like back in April, May, June. I mean, everything was locked down. And isolation or writing a test can give you negative thoughts. I'm not good at this. I know for me in COVID, it was like, what am I going to do in my life? It can happen. And you might think to yourself, why bother? Why, what if I fail? This is too hard. I hate mathematics, or I hate SD. I mean, it can all happen, but try to be positive. I know that's a really silly thing to say sometimes, but always give yourself the best chance to succeed. Don't ask, like, I've done this before. I'm writing an assignment and I'm like, what if I fail this assignment? Well, that's a future problem. At the moment when you're writing a test or you're doing an assignment, asking yourself, what if I fail, or why would I do this, or I hate this, is not productive. Do it as best as you can and worry about the results after. So, again, what if this one just stands out to me personally. What if I fail? Because that's something that really has bothered me writing tests before, or doing an assignment. Oh, I'm going to fail this. What happens if I fail? Oh, I hate this assignment. And it's just not productive. So, try to kind of limit your negative thoughts. And if you're having negative thoughts, if you're home studying and you're having negative thoughts, take a break, go for a walk, watch a funny video. A little distraction can help sometimes. One of the biggest causes, I'm almost done, by the way, guys. I'm sorry that this is a bit of a long class. Just give me like, I don't know, 5 to 10 more minutes and we'll be done. Other causes can be self-imposed or self-inflicted. Not preparing. And again, a couple weeks ago, we talked about procrastination. Maybe you had a final exam, you had a whole week to study, and you put it off until the night before. So that means you're not prepared. That can cause a lot of anxiety. And the only suggestion I can give is something my father told me. You can't change the past. So if it's the night before the exam and you know you didn't prepare well, so you procrastinated, you can't go back in time. You can't change the past. You do what you can do. Do the best that you can. And I mean, again, it's something I always remember. I can't remember what it was about, but there's something that was bothering me when I was younger. And Dad's like, "That's it, man. You can't change it. That's life. Move on." You know, it's tough to move on, but he just said, if you can't change the past, try not to worry about it. And I know this is not easy for everybody. You know, when someone's depressed or anxious and you say relax, like that's not helping. But I'm trying to give you preemptive strategies, something to do when before it gets too serious. So yeah, if you didn't prepare for a test well, you know, you weren't studying or using your study skills very well, or your time management wasn't very well, you procrastinated. Um, these can give you some anxiety. So um, to reduce test anxiety, you can always look forward and kind of think about this term or this acronym TFA. Think about your thoughts. You know, if you're having negative thoughts, think about how you feel about those thoughts. If are they rational thoughts, and then try and take actions. Say it's like 3 days before the exam or test, and you're having negative thoughts. You're thinking, "Oh, I haven't studied. Oh, I'm going to fail. What happens if I fail? I hate this course." Well, look at your feelings. Are they rational? I mean, you still have 3 days to study. You might hate the course, but it's part of your program. So, actions. Make a plan, make a study guide, make a to do list, take action on your negative thoughts. You know, is there a way that you can fix this? Maybe you procrastinate it for the night before. Okay, you're feeling very stressed about that. You have 12 hours before your test. There's nothing you can do but take action. Make a to-do list. Think, what can I do in the next 12 hours? I mean, that's going to come up for you in your jobs as well. Um, Even outside of school, things are going to happen. You'll have a deadline. You'll have something happen at work that's giving you anxiety. But how will you solve that problem? If you have a report at work due at the end of the week, there's only 2 days left. You got to do it. Do as much, or try at least. So, often negative thoughts can lead to negative feelings, which then lead to negative behaviors. It's like this cyclic um, situation. This happens to me all the time when I'm trying to sleep. I don't know if this happens to any of you, but I'm lying in bed trying to sleep. I have to get up at 7 a.m. and I can't sleep. So I start to stress. I look at the clock. The clock says it's 4 a.m. I have to get up in 3 hours. So I get stressed even more. Then I can't sleep because I'm stressed about the fact that I can't sleep. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's like this cyclic thing. I can't sleep because I'm stressed, but I'm stressed because I can't sleep. And it's happened a lot in the Corona times, I must say. But positive thoughts can lead to positive feelings. And I know that's difficult for everybody. You can't always be positive, but trying to give yourself positive thoughts, you need to be your best support group. And try and be as positive as possible can help you really kind of reduce things like anxiety, especially test anxiety. So if you have negative thoughts, a strategy for that is to reframe them. you know, I'm not good at this kind of test. You could rephrase that, well, I studied and I do know the material. Might not be good at maybe an essay type test, right? Maybe you like multiple choice and your instructor is giving you an essay. Well, you might not be good at essays, but you did study. You do know the material. So, that's a positive way of looking at it. Um, these are just some negative thoughts that you can hopefully try and reframe. I'll kind of leave this up to you, but you can kind of think, when you see these thoughts pop up in your head, what if I fail? I didn't study. The test is too hard. Try and think of some positive ways to reframe that. I mean, what if I fail? Well, did you write the test yet? Or do you still have a week? Do you still have 2 days? You can get a lot done in 2 days. So instead of thinking, what if I fail? You could think, um, what can I do to pass? What do I know already, and what can I learn in 2 days? So just I'll kind of leave this up to you, but you can try and reframe some of these negative thoughts. Okay, two more slides and we're finished. And I got some questions that I'll answer, and then that's it for today. So, what are some good strategies before taking a test, or even during a test? What are some good ways to reduce this? Well, you sometimes exercise. I know it works for many people. Exercise can put you into a positive frame of mind. And again, a positive frame of mind results typically in positive thoughts and positive actions. So try to exercise before a test. One thing I see students do all the time is they show up for a test like 10 minutes early. They're sitting there and they're just got notes everywhere and they're trying to cram as much information. 10, 15 minutes before the test, you should be relaxing, having a coffee, maybe chatting with a friend, or looking up something funny on your phone. Like, I don't mean an hour or 2 hours before the test, but 10 or 15 minutes before a test, you shouldn't be cramming. It's not going to help, or it typically doesn't help. You should kind of start to try and get into a more positive mind, relax, have a coffee, chat with somebody. Take a deep breath. That can always help. You can close your eyes briefly. You can even put your head down briefly. Um, pay attention to your posture. I guess I could write this down. So you can take a deep breath. You can close your eyes briefly. I know that helps people relax, kind of like meditation. You can put your head down briefly. You can pay attention to your posture, meaning like, sit up straight. Don't, make sure you're comfortable. You can stretch a little bit. And, I don't, kind of practice, um, kind of making your thoughts positive. So kind of practice calming your thoughts, making them more positive. I don't really know what to put in this blank here, but kind of practice controlling your thoughts, I guess you could say. So if there's any negative emotions, try and turn them positive. So you can practice controlling your thoughts, making them more positive. I'm not a psychologist. This does not work for everybody. These are just some, of course, suggestions. So the good news is, for most people, and again, this is an absolute statement, so maybe not always true. Going back to what I said before, test anxiety is often curable. Sometimes the anxiety is coming from somewhere else, and it might not be about the test. It could be about something else in your life. But if your anxiety is specifically about tests, there are ways to work on that. Part of it has to do with study skills and time management, which we did in the last two sections. So I'm not saying anxiety is always curable, but for test anxiety, using your study skills, some calming and positive thought techniques, and of course, time management can really help reduce test anxiety. Whew, that's the longest I've talked in a long time. Okay, so a couple things before we finish. I'm going to go to the chat. So earlier, Noor asked, what should we study? I kind of gave you a quick answer, Noor, just saying study your test taking skills. To more kind of definitive or more clearly answer your question, your quizzes are open book. So what I would do is, before your quiz, I would read through the notes, outline anything you think as important. Okay, so, for example, I gave you a strategy for writing essays, the quote strategy. This is probably an important topic in your quiz, right? It's a very important strategy for writing an essay. So make a note of it. Now, because your quizzes are open book, this is a little different than other quizzes, meaning you probably won't need 5 days to study for this. An open book test like you're going to have this week, it's more of a review instead of like pure retention. And what I mean is you don't have to memorize anything, but you should review the notes so that you know where to find the information when the question is asked. Okay, so what should you study? You should study this PowerPoint, but you don't have to memorize things. You should be familiar with the information and know where to find it if you don't know the answer. That's my strategy for an open book test. Just remember to watch your time limit. I had some people with the first test run out of time. Watch your time limit. Each question should take you about 3 minutes. There's 10 multiple choice or short questions, true and false multiple choice, 10 questions, 30 minutes. So you should take at least 3 minutes or maximum 3 minutes per question. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? There's a student who wrote me privately. I'm going to write them back. All right, any questions other than that? Oh, sorry. Well, okay, hold on, hold up. We're not really done. We're not really done here because I want to just mention to you, and I probably shouldn't have to do this, but guys, there are some videos you can watch. If you want a little bit more extra information, there are some videos, but where do you find the assignment, or sorry, quiz? Right here. This is due Thursday at 11:30 p.m. Okay, you can read about the quiz here and you can pick the quiz here. This is the same as what you did in this chapter. You've already done one of these quizzes in the study skills chapter. So if you're wondering where the assignment or where the quiz is, it's right here. I had a student, actually in this class, I'm going to email them in a minute. I had a student who told me that they had a hard time keeping track of when things were due. Guys, everything that's due is on your course homepage. So here I am, I'm at course home, and it's in your calendar. So if you're ever wondering, do I have anything due this week? It will always be in your calendar. Okay, and if you want to do that quiz, you can click on the thing in the calendar. So I can just, on February 11th, I have a test taking skills quiz. You can click on that and it will open the link and you can do the quiz here. All right, are there any more questions? I'm sorry for the long class and a lot of me talking. They won't be this long always, I promise. But if there's no questions, I'm gonna go and you guys are free to go. Thanks, Basma. Thanks, everybody. There's no class on Tuesday, so you guys don't have school on Tuesday. It's sports day, so you can take a break on Tuesday. Thanks, Sefia. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Take care. If you have any questions, send me an email. I'm getting, thanks, Fatima. I'm getting a lot of questions about like marks, why did I get this on this test or what happened with this assignment? If you ever have questions about your marks, send me an email. Thanks very much. It's hard for me to talk about marks in class, but I can if you send me an email. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.